All right, team, let's talk about something that is absolutely fundamental to our work. Regulation B. Getting the timing and disclosures right isn't just a nice to have, it's completely non-negotiable. So in this explainer, we're going to walk through the entire process, step by step, to make sure every single application is handled perfectly from the second it lands on your desk.
So here's our game plan. First up, we're going to pinpoint the exact moment that compliance clock starts ticking. Then we'll hit the very first disclosure you have to worry about. From there, we'll dive into the two big paths an application can take, complete or incomplete, and what to do for each. And finally, we'll wrap up with the last mandatory document you have to deliver on every single file.
Okay, let's kick things off with the single most important rule of the game, knowing when that clock actually starts. Seriously, if you get this one wrong, nothing else we talk about is going to matter. This is the foundation for everything.
So what officially counts as an application? It's pretty simple, actually. It's any request for credit, and I mean any, whether it's oral or written, that comes through our standard bank procedures. The big takeaway here? The very moment a potential borrower asks for credit, whether it's on the phone or by filling out a form, our compliance clock has started ticking.
And that brings us to the magic number. You have got to burn this into your memory, 30. You have exactly 30 calendar days from the second you receive that application to notify the applicant of what action you've taken. This 30-day clock, it is the absolute core of Reg B timing. All right, now that the 30-day clock is running, let's talk about the very first time-sensitive action you need to take. This one happens right at the beginning of that window, and it's a quick one. For every single application that comes across your desk, this is the first question you need to ask. It's a simple yes or no, but your answer triggers a very specific and very early disclosure. And here's the part people sometimes miss. This applies even if it's a business purpose loan, like for an investment property. So if the answer to that question is yes, the process is crystal clear. You have just 3. That's right. 3 business days from receiving the application to send out the notice of right to receive a copy of appraisal. This is a super tight deadline, and it absolutely cannot be missed. Okay, so you've handled that initial disclosure. Your next big job inside that 30-day window is to figure out the status of the application itself. And this, right here, is where you hit a major fork in the road. So here's the critical question you have to answer next. Do you have everything you normally need to make a credit decision? All the info you regularly obtain and consider for this type of loan? If the answer is yes, fantastic. You've got a complete application and you're heading down path A. But if you're missing anything at all, it's an incomplete file, and that sends us straight down path B.
So let's take the simpler route first. Here's exactly what you need to do when you have a fully complete application file sitting in front of you.
With a complete file, it's straightforward. You must notify the applicant of your decision within that original 30-day window. You've got 3 and only 3 possible outcomes. You can approve the loan, you can deny it, or you can make a counteroffer with different terms. Now, if your decision is a denial, you have to send a written adverse action notice. And listen, this isn't just any old letter. It has to be in writing, it has to spell out the specific reasons for the denial, and it must include the required ECOA notice. This is a critical compliance document, so it has to be perfect. Now, counteroffers. They have a really unique timeline you have to be aware of. If you make a counteroffer and the applicant just doesn't accept it, a completely different clock starts. You then have 90 days, not 30, but 90, from the day you made that counteroffer to send an adverse action notice. Okay, let's shift gears and tackle path B. This is what happens when you're stuck with an incomplete file. Knowing how to manage this information gap correctly is absolutely key to staying compliant. So inside that initial 30-day window, you've got 2 choices here. Option 1, you can just deny the application for being incomplete and send an adverse action notice. Or you can do what is absolutely the recommended best practice, send a notice of incompleteness. The second option gives you way more control over the compliance clock. Before that notice of incompleteness to be valid, it has to be precise. You can't be vague. You must spell out exactly what information is missing. You have to give the applicant a reasonable deadline to get it back to you, and you have to clearly state that if they don't respond, their file will be closed. So what happens next is totally up to the applicant. If they don't give you the info by your deadline, guess what? The application is considered withdrawn and you are done. No adverse action notice needed. But if they do provide the missing information, the application is now complete And this is huge, the 30-day clock restarts from that day. You're back on path A with a fresh 30 days.
And finally, let's talk about the last mandatory step in this whole process. This one applies anytime an appraisal was ordered, and it doesn't matter which path you went down or what the final outcome of the loan was.
This rule is absolute. There are no exceptions. The applicant has a right to receive a copy of any appraisal or written valuation we get for their application. It doesn't matter if the loan was approved, denied, or withdrawn by the customer. If we did an appraisal, they get a copy. Period.
Now, the deadline for getting them that copy depends on the outcome. For loans that are actually closing, you need to provide it promptly after you get your hands on it and no later than 3 business days before closing. For every other outcome, denial, withdrawal, and completeness, you have a 30-day window to send that copy after the final decision is made.
So as we wrap this up, it all really boils down to one simple question for you to take back to your desk. Is your current process capturing every single one of these deadlines? Think about it. That initial 3-day notice, the main 30-day decision clock, that quirky 90-day counteroffer rule, and the final appraisal delivery. Making sure these are all hardwired into your workflow, that is the absolute key to mastering Reg B compliance.